Hey gang, Ross Brand here for Ross and Nez. Welcome to episode 21 of the Livestream Experience, where we talk sports. We discuss the NCAA scandal, the FBI investigating some of the major college basketball programs. They've got hours and hours on tape of wiretaps, perhaps illegal payments, and we know of some payments, and we'll see how that affects these teams going into the NCAA tournament. Also, we talk about sexual harassment allegations against the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban, what is the implications for him? Guys talked about running for president, says he didn't know about the culture that was going on in his office, or at least about those incidences. And then also we celebrate the curling team. The U.S. men's curling team wins gold in this year's Winter Olympics. All that and more on this episode of Ross and Nez, the Livestream Experience. Enjoy. Joining me, as always, of course, is the Professor Nez, and you can find out more about us at rossandnez.com. You can subscribe to our podcast. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just subscribe. We've got all the different places you can get our good stuff, our shows, and everything else on the front of our webpage, rossandnez.com. We're going to talk some sports today, Nez. We're going to switch up things a little bit, a little different topic than we've done before. Of course, it's both business related. It's also things that are in the news, and I'm looking forward to that. But how have you been? It's been quite a while since we've been live.
I have been pining. I have been depressed. I have been severely sad. I've been scaling the walls. Where is my partner in crime, Ross Brand? No, actually, I didn't miss you one bit.
No, I didn't think you would. I'm really not that nice. I mean, who the hell wants to spend time with me?
Yeah, I actually was a nice breather from you, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, I don't have to deal with that Ross schmuck anymore. No, I absolutely love you, and boy, does that come off sincere.
Yes. Back at you, buddy.
Back at you, buddy.
Cheers.
I'm sure you feel the same way. No, I'm super excited to talk about this. We here at Ross and Nez, I know you feel the same way, Ross. We absolutely love, what we do. We absolutely love this medium. We love our craft, and we love to bring some value, hopefully, and comment on a wide range of things. And this, to me, is just fantastic news, and it's something I feel we need to talk about. And yeah, man, I missed you. I'm so excited to get in here. Nazim's already in the house. Good to see you.
Hey, Nazim.
And what about the Mets? Screw the Mets. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, baseball season is coming up, but
we're gonna have some stuff to talk about with baseball. I know that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And as always, my partner in crime. You know what? I went on an Instagram post to promote this.
You did.
And I think I've changed your moniker from the mayor to the doctor. What do you think about that? The doctor of live streaming, the surgeon of live streaming.
I heal with my voice over the.
Well, I mean, you've got too many skeletons in your closet to be the mayor. You'd never get elected. But I think.
Oh, you never know. You never know. I mean, come on. You've seen the election. I mean,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
There's 535 scoundrels in the Congress.
So I call you the doctor now. I think I'm going to call you the doctor of live streaming. I like that. The doctor and because think about it, the doctor and the professor. I like that. It sounds good.
Yeah, you could be
We'll
Dr.
see what the
Professor, right? A lot of professors go by doctor. Hello,
yeah,
Dr.
Yeah,
Professor.
but not me. They'll never call me doctor for good reason.
Yeah.
But let's see what our audience thinks. Do you like the new moniker I'm giving Ross? You're listening to this on Alexa, podcast, YouTube, or Facebook Live. Let us know, because I think that could stick. We'll let our audience know. And so, I'm super excited to talk about this, brother.
Yeah, Nazim mentions the new mic. What do you think? Can you tell the difference?
I noticed the new mic, and I know that you went a little early Christmas shopping for yourself.
Yes. Christmas came very early.
Yeah, how noble of you. When you're married with kids, you don't basically shop for yourself either. I'm wearing the same clothes since 1979, pretty much.
You are, but you picked a good set, and so that works for you. I mean, the best you can do with what God gave you, but you're doing all right.
I mean, oh, the days of being single when you actually cared about yourself.
Yeah.
When you pretty much now it's amazing, Ross, to me, because you never really appreciate. I never understood why my dad was such a schlub and he didn't really care about what he looked like, when we were kids, and he never had any friends and he never hung out with anybody. He just worked all the time. I finally get that. I mean, I finally do. Being a dad, your life is all about your kids and your wife and your family. I mean, you don't have any friends anymore. It's done. So
well, you're really
maybe my message is don't get married.
Yeah, you're really selling the marriage and children thing to me. I mean, just as my male biological clock is starting to tick on that stuff, you're really selling it to me.
Just kill it. Kill the clock. Just step on that clock.
Just run it out.
Yeah, just step on that clock. Crush it with a polo mallet. No, but I like your mic.
What do you hurt?
Yeah, maybe. What do you think of your mic? I think it sounds good. We can let the audience tell us, what do they think?
Yeah. It's hard for me to tell because I'm not turned up all that loud in my headphones, because if I do that, then I hear you too. And that's that's not the way I want to go with this thing.
That's not amenable. What do you think of what made you decide to go with this one rather than the was it between the Shure and the Heil? Is that what it was?
It was between the Shure and the RE20 from Electro Voice, and then I tested the Heil as well. Cool. All three are great mics. The RE20 is an awesome mic. The Heil was good too. I just think that this picks up the lower range really clearly. It doesn't get muddied. So you can do like this is Barry White for Ross and Nez.
Hey, hold up. Watch out.
Ross Handcuff and Nez your girlfriend. Cordially invite you to come on down for the show.
You would be a great porno DJ with that voice. That would be something. Not that I know what those DJs sound like.
Right.
No, I'm sorry. I meant strip club DJ.
I've always figured, at least back when I worked in radio, I kind of figured being a DJ in like a strip club or something was kind of like the low end.
Oh, you missed your calling.
Hey, coming out now is...
Here's Bambi. I mean, I've never been to a strip club because I don't engage in that kind of.
I haven't either, but I've seen them in movies, and that's how I know.
That's exactly what I meant. What I meant. Yeah.
So, speaking of strip clubs, why don't we make a transition to the
Let's jump
FBI
into it.
is investigating different NCAA programs. They've been wiretapping hours and hours of conversations. And they've got, payments going to players and illegal meetings with agents, at least as far as maintaining your amateur status. And it's got a lot of the big programs drawn in. And, wow, a lot of these coaches who've won national championships and are Hall of Fame caliber coaches are now sort of sitting on the edge of their seat wondering what's the next shoe that's going to drop.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, to me, and those of you who don't know, and maybe possibly are not really privy to what's going on here, the NCAA is the entity that basically governs, right? I mean, college sports. And, it's called the National, what's the entire, I don't even know, National
Collegiate Athletic Association.
So basically, this is an entity, I mean, that makes billions of dollars, not just millions. We're talking billions of dollars a year. Okay, selling TV rights, merchandising, getting all of the benefits, right, from these college athletes or student athletes, right, who are basically getting nothing. Now, when I say nothing, at least monetarily, there is the side that, or the argument that, well, they're getting an amazing education. A lot of these amazing athletes, let's be completely upfront, they don't come from, maybe the best of means and the best of, the most allocated financially, right? So, or well off, shall we say? And so they're getting scholarships, they're getting a great education. But, I mean, this is a business, right? This is a business, the bottom line. And there's been a lot of controversy over the NCAA because they're making billions. Coaches are making millions. Athletic departments are making millions. And, these students who are, let's be honest, this is my opinion. I think they're risking a lot, because let's face it, a lot of these athletes, especially the top athletes and these athletes who are getting paid, they wouldn't pay these guys if they weren't worth something. They want to go into the pros, right? They want to make this into a career. And why not?
Let me tell you a little secret, having covered college sports on a variety of different levels. The guys at the schools you've never heard of think that they were just overlooked by the scouts at the big schools and the recruiters. They all are thinking, the guy at the Ivy League school is thinking, hey, if I just get my jump shot a little better, or I grow a few more inches between freshman and sophomore year or whatever, and I keep working at it, and, they just get me the ball a little more, or, I increase my 40 time just a little bit. You'd be surprised. I mean, they all are thinking, let's see where this college thing goes, right? Now, they're more realistic as you go to smaller schools and Division III. Those guys have no illusions. But I'm telling you, across Division I, from, Duke and Kentucky down to Columbia and Cornell or whatever, the guys going there were all superstars in high school. They were all county or all state or whatever. And, the guys going to like the Ivy League schools or, other small schools, they're a couple inches shorter. They're maybe a step slower or whatever. They're still really good, talented basketball players. And they're all trying to keep that dream alive too. Right. But going back to what you said before, isn't it just the greatest business model ever?
Oh my God. You don't have to pay your employees. You don't have to pay your employees.
You keep all the money and the talent doesn't get any.
The talent doesn't get any, which it's like unbelievable. It's like you've got this operations manager, you've got this all-star CEO, and you don't have to pay them a dime, right? Running your company.
And you can sell jerseys in your bookstore, your campus bookstore, with their name and number on it. Right. You can sell tickets to events. You can raise money from alumni. You can do all kinds of things, season tickets, travel packages, the whole thing. You can get all the TV money. And then the head coach is not only typically the highest paid state employee, if it's a state school, in the state, right? More than the governor, more than anyone. Yeah. But that guy can go on behalf of the college and negotiate a deal with a shoe company and then keep the millions that come from that in addition to what they make from their salary. And then they get a radio show and they get money for doing that. And they get, there's a lot of perks to being a coach. Now it's a stressful job and you've got to recruit and, you have a short lifespan usually, unless you're really successful. But nonetheless, the coaches, the head coaches in particular, and the universities, and particularly the athletic departments, which are almost like a business within the university, are making out incredible. And athletes are coming, and like you said, they're risking it because those who have the talent to be potentially professional basketball players, an injury could end their career, right? So they're basically playing for nothing to pass the time in that first year, right? Yeah. The guys who otherwise... It's almost
like purgatory, isn't it? Right. It's like that 1 year is purgatory. You got to just kind of sort of, hope that everything... You're just kind of waiting it out. Because I don't... Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of these athletes, and Nazim says, who made you the expert, Naz? Nobody. I'm definitely not an expert. But this is something that I see, and this is what I observe, and I'm a human being, and we can talk about this. And I know you're slightly joking because I'm an expert on all things. But all no, I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about the back end. I don't think anybody does, and that's the point. I mean, the FBI investigating these student athletes, is this how we want our tax dollars being spent? I mean, is this intelligent allocation of resources? We've got so many problems in this country right now. We've got so many issues in this country right now. And the FBI is going after student athletes getting some money to, play, to bring with where the return on investment, a little bit of money to these athletes, where the entities that govern them are making not millions with an M, but billions. Is this really worth our tax resources? I don't know. It just seems kind of ridiculous to me. But when I put myself in the shoes of these athletes, and Ross, you obviously know a lot more about this. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I know a lot more about everything, but
well, I mean, that's true. That's actually true, sadly. but but
and I'm humble too.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, can you be a little more modest? That'd be great.
Yes. If I wasn't so humble, I might tell you how wonderful I am, but I'm too humble to do that.
We'll get to that segment.
Please proceed.
We'll
Please make your point already.
We'll get to that segment. Never. I'm thinking college degree. Okay, yeah, college degree is fantastic, but I'm thinking to myself, if I'm these student athletes, it's about the dollars. It's about the dollars, and it's about getting my family out of a situation. It's about what everybody thinks about: security, especially financial security. I mean, let's stop beating around the bush. This is the number one concern of everybody in the professional world. I mean, we can say that going to school is going to change you, enliven you, and broaden your horizons. But really what we want is we want to be able to raise our families. We want to be able to not worry about if, God forbid, if a medical emergency happens. And that's what everybody thinks about. So what makes this any different? And why is this such a big deal? I want to hear in the comments too. What do you guys think? But Ross, I mean, the FBI investigating this, is it worth it?
Yeah, see, what I'm not so sure about, and I mean, there are some things that are illegal that may be going on, but in general, I mean, I think they're violating the rules of the NCAA. That's not the same as violating the laws of the United States, is it?
Exactly.
I mean, do we have laws on the books and regulation from the federal government about how colleges and athletes are supposed to handle their business, or is this something, I didn't think the FBI's job was to enforce the rules that the arbitrary, that are arbitrarily made up by the NCAA in order to be able to take all the money that's being produced by the talent. And people say, well, it'll mess up the college, but, nobody's paying millions of dollars to watch the tuba player. You know what I mean? Nobody's paying millions of dollars, for TV rights and filling 20,000 seat arenas in order to see the school play and things like that. So really,
you'd be surprised. There are some tuba players out there that can really, really make it sing, brother.
I know you were incredible when you were in the band and you would do your dance moves and everything else, but in general, aside from Nez, I was the only one where they came for the band.
I was the trapeze artist in the band, and with my highly athletic skills and my flexibility, I was able to create magic on that floor.
Right. I mean, there were definitely in those reports things going on that can't possibly be legal, like well, why not say? I mean, Louisville apparently was hiring prostitutes and strippers to entertain the recruits to convince them that going to Louisville was a good place or to, keep players interested.
Did you ever see that movie, Ross? Did you ever see that movie Blue Chips with Shaq?
Which is, by the way, how we get our guests on the show. We didn't have any spare cash today, so it's just going to be the two of us. But
this isn't your ordinary show.
What do you get for coming on? Well, you get a lap dance, and
you get a front row seat to Ross's audition at the strip club.
You know what? Before we go into Blue Chips, I just want to say that, think about this, right? These universities, which are supposed to be the places where people are doing research, maybe they're trying to come up with a cure for cancer, or this or that. And the most important thing that they're spending money on in their recruitment of students is to get some 18-year-old who needs 4 months of playing college basketball so he can go to the NBA. I mean, think about, even going into the worst areas, right? The most dangerous areas with the worst high schools. What if we spent a tenth of that amount of money and tried to find kids who were geniuses in those areas who weren't getting opportunities because they weren't going to a good school, because they had other stresses, or just, putting that money into other things. And I mean, I love college basketball. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to be watching when the games are on. No question about it. But the system is so flawed. I don't even know where you'd begin to make it better.
And here's what I don't understand. And here's what I don't understand. And I want to hear from you guys in the chat too. Like why would you incorporate, I love what you said about the distinction of the federal law versus some arbitrary law by the NCAA. Why would you incorporate a rule? You're doing fantastic. You're making your money tenfold, 100-fold. Why would you incorporate a rule which would not only sully your organization and make your organization look bad, but would actually, bring the wrong kind of attention to the entire sort of medium, right, of college sports? Why would you, what is the incentive? Is it just because you want all the money? I mean, to me, this is like corporate greed on a whole nother level. Am I wrong about that, Ross?
Well, they're selling a fantasy, right? Because if you notice, after every college basketball game, they'll have a press conference by the coaches, and then they'll say, and now we're going to bring in the student athletes.
Right.
So there's the fiction. I'm not saying that a lot of guys are good students. A lot of guys aren't actually from, in need financially. And
no, I mean, of course,
certainly a diverse group of players. But think about it. Even you're a kid who's from an upper middle class family, right? If he has a chance to get a first round lottery pick NBA contract, and then, in 3 years, 4 years, he becomes a free agent and then can sign 100, 200 million, his dad and mom, who may be lawyers and doctors, are never going to see that kind of money, no matter how good their practices are. Right. So,
yeah,
I mean, you're talking about an amount of money that like you just don't get in almost any other field, and it's guaranteed money. So
that's unbelievable.
And the ability for schools, the pressure on coaches to win, and the ability for these players. I mean, there's only 5 guys on a court. The difference that one great player can make to a program.
Oh my God, it's millions, millions, right?
I was listening to a show locally, and the host said something like, even Duke had to go and do the one and done. That's where they talk about a guy who comes for basically play the season, then stops going to class and declares eligible for the NBA draft.
It's just a formality.
Forced Duke. I mean, I know Coach K is supposed to be this like saintly figure. It's just about a leader of men and whatever. And if you ever sat quite courtside when he's coaching a game, it's just a slew of bleep, 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 bleep.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Time out. Yeah. So that's interesting because, again, is the hypocrisy of this, right? The hypocrisy of, and this relates to, a lot of the things that we talk about, right? About engaging your audience, about building and growing your business, and how transparency is everything. Yeah. He's always been this sort of golden boy. He's always been this like angel you don't touch. But you're telling me you've been to Duke games? Talk about that a little bit. And it's just one after the other.
I actually covered the ACC for a year. And
awesome.
I was in press conferences with him. He's an SOB. You don't want to mess with that guy. I thought he was like Mr. Super Nice Guy before that. He goes in the press conference like back. Christian Laettner, he was terrific. And Bobby, he really passed the ball. And Grant, he had a few good dunks, and our defense was really good. And I just love these kids. And then you go on the sideline, it's like bleep, 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 bleep.
Wow.
Like, oh, yes, an educator, as they like to.
What a leader of men. I can't see Coach Wooden doing that. If I feel like that would break my heart, because he's always somebody I've looked up to. But yeah, I remember being a kid or young. Maybe not a kid.
But how did he get all those great players to UCLA?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, is this a case where this is just you're uncovering something that's been there forever since the beginning, or is this anything new? Because when I mentioned the Blue Chips thing, and I love your Coach K story, that's interesting to me. When I mentioned that Blue Chips movie, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, there was this movie that came out in 95 or 90, I can't remember. And it was basically exactly, parallel to this story, where this is when Shaquille O'Neal just came on the scene, and Anthony Hardaway, which nobody knows about. And I can't remember that dude from Indiana, but he was a top college player. And even Bobby Hurley was in that movie too, if you remember. Yeah, and Bobby Knight, was in the, and it was basically all about what? How do you get the top players to come play at your organization. And it was all about, corruption in the NCAA and how these players got paid and how yada, yada, yada. I mean, is this anything new? And by the way, are people like enraged by this? I mean, what is this something that where people, well, what are people going to do now? They're gonna be like, well, I'm not going to watch college sports now. Or what's the result of this? What's the end? Is this just about, this some kind of false sense of integrity or dignity? I mean, what is the outcome that they want? What's their objective?
Well, not every program is cheating, right? I mean, every program probably...
That's why they're not in the Final Four. No.
Well, yeah, it could be. But every program, if you put everything under a microscope all the time, you're going to find something that's a violation. I mean, if a kid goes to a cousin's house and the cousin gives them a gift or something, they got to figure out, is it too much money? Is it a payoff?
Exactly.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. I remember once a player left college early, and then he came back from the NBA and gave his former teammates like some hats with the logo of the pro team that he played for. And that was considered like taking a gift from somebody at a higher level of basketball.
Oh,
like insane, right? Like they can't even, like a kid's grandparent passes away and the school who's making millions of dollars can't even like buy the kid a plane ticket to fly back and attend the funeral or something. I mean, the rules are that strict. But what I'm saying is there's different degrees of what goes on. And some programs are very clean or try and keep it that way, do their best. Don't necessarily have to have the best players. They recruit good players or really good players, and they coach them up to the next level and whatever. And obviously, if the rules are such that you can't be paying players and you can't be recruiting outside of certain boundaries and whatever, then it's necessary to kind of rein in those. Otherwise, it's an unfair playing field. I mean,
if somebody's going to show up,
the old joke is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying in college sports.
That's actually really interesting. I mean, if somebody shows up at my house and says, here's a Lexus, here's a bag of $50,000 cash, and this is just a little gift from us to you, no strings attached or anything. Well, obviously, the first thing I'm going to do is think, well, there's got to be strings attached, right? And I'm going to try to figure out what's going on. But God, me being a, I'm not going to say my exact age. Well, actually, I don't care, 41. But me being that type of adult, I would look at things a little bit more carefully and understand that there's something going on here. That's nobody just hands you a Lexus, and $50,000 cash. An 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, right? Who's, maybe never even seen a Lexus, or never in their lives have ever seen more than, a couple $100. Wow. I mean, can you imagine? Put yourself in their shoes. Can you imagine that money could get, my mom a house? I could pay the bills. I can get us out of debt. I could sell the Lexus and, put that towards a down payment to a new, you know what I mean? Like, I can't even imagine, these agencies, they're smart, actually. Right. I mean, they're actually really smart. I mean, they understand, think of the business model, right? They understand their audience. They know their pain points, right? And they're providing them value. Isn't that the whole sort of thing? And I don't care. I don't know how many people in America, are people really fooled by this? Are people really, is this news? I
think people know it goes on. They want to believe that their program is holier than thou, and the other programs, that's what the rival down the road does. They cheat. Now, I happen to root for a team that doesn't cheat, but all the other ones do. And
Virginia?
Yeah, no, they do it right. And they were mentioned in that report because Malcolm Brogdon, who was if there really was a student athlete anywhere in the NCAA, he was a student athlete. He graduated in like less than 4 years, was in grad school during his fifth year because he missed a year to injury. Great grades, all that stuff, right? His mom had, apparently, they're saying that she had a meal, a $64 meal with an agent in March, which is when basketball season ends, of his fifth year, a guy who had graduated and was going to graduate from graduate school soon.
In his fifth year.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't need the money. His parents are professionals. They didn't need the money. I mean, in fact, there's some thought that she wasn't even there, and that the agent just wanted to expense some extra food, some extra stuff, or tell the agency, "Hey, I met with the mom of this guy." But even if it's true, I mean, I don't know how you're looking at that and you're putting that in the same league as paying players, buying them houses, buying their parents things. I mean, that's, okay, even if it did happen, it's hardly a crime.
Yeah. 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 And it's actually not a crime, right? Again, as we said at the top of the hour, this is just some random arbitrary law that the NCAA, which I just think it's just, I mean, there's got to be some smart people over there that understand that if this gets out, that we're not, I mean, people understand that. I mean, all their information is public, right? Is there sort of revenue and their business model? Is that all? That's all public record. Is it
I
not?
would assume it is for state schools, right? Because
maybe not private schools.
Athletic departments are like incorporated separately within the university.
Right.
But I would assume for a state school, everybody's salary is public. Everybody's the budget is I would assume, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would too. And also, so this just to me is like bad PR. It's just bad business. It's a complete oversight, I think, by this entity, this organization. And I think that this just does nothing but make them look bad, because they're making it is like I love what you said earlier. You said, what a business model. You don't have to pay the talent. You just sit back, sell your product, and talk about passive income. Right?
Yeah, right.
You don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? Like that's really interesting to me. That's super interesting.
Yeah, let's move on. Talk about this situation with Mark Cuban, who's always kind of had a good reputation as far as being a good guy, or at least tried to portray himself that way. He's always been very involved with his Dallas Mavericks, a little over the top, sitting by the courtside and yelling at the refs and all that kind of stuff. But nobody ever doubted that he loved this organization and the people that work there and all that kind of thing. Right. And so I was really shocked to hear that there have been some incidents of sexual harassment and even, domestic violence and stuff like that. And he kept the people who were involved in it. Now, he claims that, that was handled by the HR person. He never knew about it. He fired the HR person. He fired one guy, was a reporter, basically an in-house reporter who wrote articles and covered the team from the team's perspective, right?
Right.
He had one domestic violence incident. They kept him, and then he was dating a fellow employee and had another domestic violence incident with her, and somehow remained on the team's payroll up until this news broke. And then the other person was the CEO of the team, who, women who worked for the team couldn't go into a meeting with him without, having to play defense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and isn't this just indicative of what's been happening? I mean, it seems like every single day now, a new sexual harassment case is coming out. And, obviously, if there's legitimacy there, it should be, taken care of strictly and expeditiously. And there should be zero tolerance of that. And I think even Adam Silver, the NBA, the commissioner of the NBA, he's kind of instituting, I just heard this and I'm looking it up right now, a hotline. So there's a hotline, that's their response to this, where you can actually call in and report or remain anonymous or what have you. Which,
hello, the CEO's got his hand on my leg. Hello.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit strange to me.
I mean, isn't that what your HR is for? And isn't that why companies have open door policies with their HR department, and some even with your manager, the executives? I mean, that's why they're each company's supposed to have a variety of channels. And I'm sure the Mavericks probably had channels for bringing those things up. I don't know what happened there. But I mean, Cuban's the one who's going to have the biggest fallout. I mean, this guy was talking about running for president.
Yeah.
He's on Shark Tank, and I'm not saying that he's going to lose all of that, but I think running for president is probably kind of gone by the wayside now. I mean, how can this not? How could he not know? How could a guy who sits at courtside, like, that's the problem for being a visibly over-involved owner. How do you then say you didn't know what was going on in your front office with your CEO?
You know what's interesting? I actually believe him, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not saying it's okay, because I feel like this is a perfect case. I think Mark Cuban is a perfect case of spreading yourself too thin. The guy's on Shark Tank. The guy runs multiple $1 billion businesses. He's all over. He's doing interviews all over the place. He's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, I've got just a small online business, and I feel like I barely have enough time to, go to the bathroom. I can't imagine these guys, you see, we talk about Gary sometimes, these guys who are like, got their hands in every single thing. There's just not enough time in the day. I actually, and this is not excusing his behavior. I bet, and even though he's highly involved in the organization, I bet he probably heard murmurings, or he probably figured, look, I've got a good management team in place and they'll take care of this. But I bet you he really didn't know the full breadth of it. And again, this is not excusing it, because I just feel like this guy's all over the place. I mean, yeah, now he's always getting in these tweet battles with Trump and, who's the bigger billionaire, which is just a world where you and I and 99% of the world doesn't even know what's good. I mean, we have no
we're not throwing our hat into the ring on that.
No, I mean, it's just like, give me a break. Who's got more billions in the bank? I mean, is that your real issue? And I actually think it's funny, because my wife and I watch Shark Tank sometimes, because I actually tell my students this too. This is a great show to watch to learn how to pitch and learn how to present yourself and communicate. And some of the people that come on that show, you just got to go, how in the world have you ever made $1 in your life with the way that you communicate? But it's so funny, because I always tell my wife, I go, if they get a deal with Mark, if I went on Shark Tank, I'd say the one Shark Tank that I would be praying to get a deal with is Mark, because I just feel this dude knows business. He is the Michael Jordan of business. I think he is a gung-ho, savvy, surgeon of business. And I feel like everything that guy touches just turns to gold. So I kind of felt like, oh man, this guy's, he's going to have a lot of problems with this. But then again, and I'd love to hear your comments in the chat. I'd love to see what you guys are saying. But then again, living in the Trump era, right, Ross? Living in the Trump era, this guy's opened up a whole new sort of, this guy's opened up a whole new Pandora's box where it's almost like, you can get away with a lot more than you could before the Trump era, I feel like.
Well, but you look at all these scandals in corporations and in the media. I mean, the Me Too movement. It was like another media personality or executive a day. Was like, who did they get today, right? I mean, think about all the people now. It's a little tougher with an elected official. It's a little tougher with an elected official who either relationships were consensual or people were paid off or whatever happened. But I think it's a little bit different. I mean, if we found out that people were getting sexually harassed in the White House, I think things would go really, really different. But I mean, who knows, right? I mean, Trump's been bulletproof on that kind of stuff. I mean, whatever drops, he bounces back.
I mean, he is totally immune. I mean, when the whole Billy Bush, when the whole Billy Bush thing came out right before he got elected,
right,
I was like, this is it. He's done. He's finished. I mean, this right here, he's going to lose. The one thing that, was going to take Hillary to the top was solidifying the, white female demographic. Well,
right.
I mean, that didn't hurt him either. This guy seemed to be completely bulletproof. And you can't help but think that the ramifications of that are going to spread across the country, or at least the reverberations, and kind of eke into these different industries, or eke into at least to the psyche, the consciousness of these.
What's really remarkable is usually people like are sort of indifferent, and maybe they like one candidate and all right, I'm not a huge fan of the other like he's got a portion of the country that despises him, and
Yes.
yet he's been bulletproof on scandal and like it's like whatever, it had
Yeah.
something maybe happened, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing
Exactly.
happened, whatever.
I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. It almost seems like he's got this, unbelievable invisible cloak that nobody can penetrate. Whereas look at Wynn, like, right, the guy, the mogul in Vegas.
Right.
Not only did he get ousted, but he didn't even get any severance. Not that he needs it, but
Right.
it's like, oh my God, I'm not going to get my 300 million. Hey, dear, we're really going to have to move out of our penthouse now because I didn't get my severance. No, that guy's got billions. But with Cuban, I almost feel like with this case, and I'm looking at an interview with Dirk Nowitzki, and Dirk Nowitzki saying, I'm absolutely disgusted with this, completely disappointing. It's heartbreaking.
I love the guy who walks behind him and puts something on his head in that interview. Did you see that?
I
didn't know if that was a hat or he was balancing a big jacket on his head. That was the most interesting part of the interview.
I was like, I was riveted. Yeah, I have no idea. And if you don't know what we're talking about, there's an interview with Dirk Nowitzki, one of the players, and was it another player, Ross? Somebody in the background.
It was a player.
And
shoot,
he's walking in the background. It looked like he put a duvet on his head or something. I don't know what that was.
But, that was the most interesting thing to come out of this. That was the most
interesting thing. But I mean, one former organization employee, I'm reading this, it was a real life Animal House. So if you never saw it, some of you might be too young for that, but that's a movie where, it's basically just, it's a college frat, extravaganza. And you can kind of imagine what that entails. A whole bunch of debauchery. So I like that word, debauchery. I always like that word.
That's a good one.
But I mean, it sounds good, doesn't it? Debauchery.
Yeah. But I wish I had that video handy. I would pop it into Be Live now. Be Live gives us
crying out loud. Do something.
I know. Shame on me. But Be Live, honestly, Be Live has 4 seats now, right? So you can bring in like a video and a picture or whatever. You can bring a lot of stuff in, and we should definitely do that to play some video clips when we're talking about stuff.
I would 100% agree. I thought you were on top of it. I guess not.
Yeah, no, I don't pay attention.
Well, just to wrap up, I can't wait to get to the curling story.
Oh yeah,
you know me.
That's your area.
I mean, don't even get me started on curling. I turn into a complete fanatic when it comes to curling. But I mean, let me just wrap this up. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't think this is going to affect Cuban's businesses. I don't think this is going to affect his standing if he does decide one day to run. I think this makes him look really, really bad. I think this is going to be a little blemish, but I think he's going to be totally fine. And, it looks like they're taking care of it. It's absolutely atrocious that it took place for so long. But I'm glad that they're finally getting that figured out, because I have a daughter, and I think all these things coming out,
right.
I think it's about time that, the corporate culture or the sort of power culture understood that, yeah, man, you can't be a jerk. Okay. You can't be a jerk anymore. All right. You may think that you've got this power. You may think that you've got this status, but that doesn't give you the right, to really, you don't circumvent the law. You're not immune. Right.
So when are you going to change your behavior there then?
I'm seeking shock treatment as we speak. Doctor, can you up the voltage? Up the voltage, doc.
All right, let's move on to the feel-good story of the century. The United States wins its first ever gold medal. The U.S. men's curling team, congratulations to them. And what a story. I was messaging back and forth with Chris Strub, who follows it a lot closer than I do, and he was telling me that that one of the guys who won the gold really kind of choked in some past performances, and they actually came up with a system where they had other people form teams to try and keep him off the team, and his team ended up winning in order to qualify for the Olympics. And he said the other guys on the team were rejects too. So not only did he qualify again, but after winning a bronze and then going 2, where I guess he kind of screwed things up or whatever, this guy Schuster ends up being like, the star of the Olympics for the U.S. team, and they take the gold. And I know you're big with the brush when you're out there curling. You're one of the great brushers of all time.
Well, it's actually on my resume.
I think it's a sweeper is what they call it, but
yeah, sweeping, brushing, they're all interrelated. And if I think sweeping skills are really, I mean, most CEOs, if you really ask them honestly, their sweeping skills have really come in handy in running corporations and running businesses. So all you kids out there, get out a broom and start sweeping immediately.
I don't even understand how the sweeping helps direct the.
It's a science. It's a science. Okay. Do not defame curling. All right, Ross? It's a science. It's a way of understanding the path and the trajectory. No, I don't know what the hell I'm saying. I don't know anything. I think what's interesting is that there's this. I don't know. Did you hear this little twist to the story? When they won the gold medal, when they actually had the ceremony, did you hear about this? They actually got the wrong medal. Did you hear this, Ross?
No.
So they actually got the women's gold instead of the men's gold, and they didn't notice it right away. But I think a few players did.
They didn't notice the female on the.
Yeah. Well, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, they're singing the national anthem of the greatest country on earth is playing, and you win the gold for your beautiful country, the US of A. And then next thing you're
probably not reading the fine print on it, right?
You're probably not reading the fine print. You're just overwhelmed. You're just
you're posing with this medal that's a U.S. women's champion.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a real kind of interesting twist. But yeah, I think this is really cool, especially the story mentioning the player. And what a great comeback story. This is what's cool about sports. This is what's cool about the Olympics. Is it always seems like, whenever you inject human beings into some type of activity, there's unrelenting drama following. And isn't that what makes it exciting? It's so cool. We love the drama. The drama kind of keeps us riveted. It's kind of like the drama inside Ross's head. It's kind of like a bad Stephen King novel.
And, speaking of that drama, we both have to get back to the drama of our regular working lives. So we do need to wrap things up. This was a great conversation, Nez. It's always great to chat with you. Look forward to maybe going live again this week. We're also going to record some podcast interviews for episodes, and a lot of stuff going on. You can find us.
Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to share. Sharing is caring. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to Alexa. Get on our YouTube channel. We are everywhere.
And that wraps up this episode of Ross and Nez, the live stream experience. Thanks so much for joining us for episode 21. You can get all the episodes by subscribing to our podcast at rossandnez.com. Also, if you want to subscribe right through iTunes, go to rossandnez.com/iTunes. We also put most of our shows on YouTube. You can find it there, rossandnez.com/YouTube. Have a great week, everybody. We will see you once again on the Ross and Nez podcast. Take care.